It is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And this is a regular board meeting. Not a special one. We're just starting it a little early so that we can open the sealed bids first for the sale of property. So you want to take that over, Brian?
Yeah, I think Sandra, do you want to open it?
So this was received 12/25 on July 15th from Joyce Kirshner.
Okay.
Oh, it is the only still bid we
You
got.
had all the other first.
As she's handing that out, I forgot all the other stuff. Roll call.
Oh. Oh, I forgot, it is our meeting, okay.
So roll call, Judy, when you're ready.
Nielsen absent, Marvel,
Here. Thank you.
Northway,
Present.
Farah,
Here.
Peter here.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented with minor adoptions. And that there are two more pieces of mail that we will mention. And I think we might at new business decide down there the response to the interrogatories for the lawsuits. I'll just mention that. Okay. So with those adoptions of those amendments to the agenda, I move to adopt. Do I have a support?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Are there any conflicts of interest at this point wishing to be declared? No, let the record show there are none. For the good of the community, why don't we skip over that right now? I think it will take longer, and I think there's some people here that are wanting to.
But you have the sealed bids. So the next item is.
Oh, it is. Oh, see, I'd already, oh, you're right, you're right. I'm totally out of it. Okay, sealed bid, it's yours, Brian. You don't have it.
No.
I
Jim, would you like to read that?
Sure. Come here.
Okay, I'll read it. I understand you guys for a bid of $8,000, but I feel the property is worth that amount, as stated there is no right. It says, and it is vertical piece of land that cannot be moved for preservation purposes only. I do realize that the township has invested resources in its sound plot, which this bid more than covers since the parcel is deeded to the township for $1. Township will also benefit from the additional revenue. The bid is $6,000. Respectfully, Joyce Kirshner, 1697 South Shore East, Frankfort, Michigan.
Okay, so does everyone know what piece of property we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so we thought that there were more persons interested. We only received one bid and we just opened it and read it for the first time. It's $2,000 under our asking price.
I'm trusting that Brian did his homework, that he's the one that has done all the work on this.
Appraisal came back at $6,000, right? What I wanted to do is I wanted to cover some of our costs. We paid $500 for the survey. We paid $500 for the appraisal. And then we'll have closing costs along with the other $1,000. So what I was looking to do is just cover our costs and get the appraisal.
Yeah. Sounds good. Any other discussion?
How do you feel about it?
I would like to go and move that we table this until we figure this out a little bit more. I think it's when it hasn't come in at our asking price, that we need to discuss this more and see if this is the board decision, think about it, come back, and if we decide to accept this at our next meeting and so forth, we can let her know at that point.
At what date does the property go on the market?
We advertised it in the paper.
Yeah, it went in the paper twice. It's been about a month since we made the decision to go and seal bid.
No, I'm just throwing that I don't know if anybody supports that or not.
I like the idea of putting out there at least minimum.
You know, if you look at the property, the use is so limited. It's, you go out there, I've been out there many times, and it is almost, it is, like Joyce says, preservation property. It's just, it's worthless to anybody except for the adjoining property.
Right, so the whole thing about no road is kind of a moot point. There's no way that you could get a road there, right?
Oh, heaven, no.
So,
See, and I think if it appraised at 6 and we're being offered 6, we're lucky somebody even wants to give us money for it.
okay,
And we've spent a lot of time on this, and if it is true that we paid $1 for it, and not getting any taxes on it because we owned it, I think we take the 6,000 and be grateful we got it.
okay.
There's one thing that we have to think about, and that is the other person who's interested.
Mm-hmm.
If we sell for less than the minimum bid, he may be upset.
He had a chance to put in a bid, he did not.
I agree.
Okay.
Well, I still maintain, and it's been seconded, that we need to think about this for a little bit more. I'm not ready for a snap judgment, but I could be outvoted on this, so.
I think the bid process, if the other gentleman was interested, he'd have done the same thing that Mrs. Kirschner did, and he'd have come forward with a bid. Just because we said it's $8,000, we're having board discussion that we'd accept less. I just think we spent a lot of time on it, and I say we do it, but I understand if you want to.
Do we have any idea how much closing costs will be?
No, no.
I can't imagine it is gonna be a lot of money.
Yeah, I wonder if we could rewrite the contract so it'd be 6,000 plus they pay the closing fees. They're expensive.
So we covered the survey and the appraisal, but Mrs. Kirchner would cover the closing costs. That be acceptable to you?
Do you get it?
Probably, but when he surveyed, I thought he was supposed to put markers in all 4, and there are no markers on that property.
There are no markers because of how steep it is. They weren't willing to go down. They found the corners. They marked the corners on the top with orange flagging tape. And they had photographs of the lower boundary back in your garage. So they know where it is. They know it's just behind that retaining wall that you have back there. But they did not mark the corners.
They marked the top 2, but not the bottom 2.
And wouldn't the steel markers still be there?
I don't think there ever was.
Oh, okay, you don't think there ever were the big steel markers in the ground?
Probably, but we bought that our cottage in 1966. So,
Who knows? Be under 3 feet of dirt.
How much do we have wrapped up in appraisal and survey?
$1,000.
So we're still 5 ahead.
I'm kind of leaning towards what Jill said now.
That's why we discuss.
I can't imagine the closing costs are gonna be a lot. It isn't like there has to be a long involved title search. It's not like it's passed from person to person and we're worried that the taxes weren't paid and there hasn't been any taxes.
I would probably come down at this point to 7,000 plus closing costs.
I'm 6,000 and we counted good. That's just my opinion. How about this? Is there any way to find out what closing costs should be?
Oh.
I mean, I can't, not right now, but
Right,
we have 2 title companies. We have the one in Bureau.
Okay. so how does this work board wise? If we find out that the closing costs are acceptable to you,
Well, there's a motion on the board.
I know.
She'd have to vote that down,
okay,
so.
I'm just thinking in terms of representing the community. As opposed to personally dispensing. Just feels like, we need to represent the community.
excuse me, Dr. Northwood, I could not hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking in terms of, when we make this decision, we're gonna be representing the township. And I'm trying to figure out what's a fair thing to reflect the interest of the township.
And I think we are representing the interests of the township because we're collecting more money than we've ever gotten for it. And there's nobody else interested in it.
That's tax.
Plus it's gonna be taxed at $6,000 if that's what we sell it for. So you guys know more about what we do next.
If we're done discussing. No other comments, then I would call. I would call the roll. The motion is to accept to not accept this at this time, but to table it. Think about it, come back with another time, either a special meeting or the next meeting with a definitive answer. That's what you're voting on.
Okay.
She's gonna call roll in a minute.
Yeah, on the, what, table it for a month.
That's the motion.
Okay.
That's thumbs up or thumbs down.
For a month? I mean, are we?
I didn't say it. I just said. Until we have a special meeting or.
Ferris,
Yes.
Northway,
Yes.
Marble,
No,
Van Meter, no.
Okay, so the motion fails.
okay.
Does anyone wish to have another motion on the table?
I wanna know how it works procedure wise, if we find out what the closing costs are and Mrs. Kirschner's willing to accept those closing costs. Can we vote on that now?
So you would say, I put the motion forward that
That we
we
accept
accept the 6,000
Yep.
with the,
Caveat that closing costs are covered by Mrs. Kirschner if she agrees to it and we get that figure.
do you have a second?
Judy's got eyebrows that say she has a question.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
All right, just a minute. What did you just say? I just have a problem with us doing that when the closing costs are an unknown number.
But we're saying in the motion that we are gonna research the closing costs. And if they're agreeable to Mrs. Kirschner, we're not leaving it blank and she's agreeing to it no matter what. We're just saying, if she agrees to what we find out, we move forward and take the $6,000, we close, she gets the price.
About 3%.
Is it?
But that's,
Okay,
Vacant land
the
is.
problem is,
yeah,
it's vacant land, but the value is only $6,000, 3% of $6,000 is hardly worth the effort. So it's gonna be proportionally higher because of the little.
well, we're gonna find out.
And by the way, I don't think it's bad to write a motion and say 6,000 plus closing costs. They're gonna be what they're gonna be. I don't think there's anything wrong with leaving a blank there.
Did he second it?
You did. So now you had your hand up, kind of, you're. What was
Oh,
your
no.
discussion?
You just explained it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did I?
So you're good with it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll listen to the audio to the exact wording.
okay.
Okay, so now it's discussion. Any other comments?
I think it's time to move on.
Roll call when you're ready.
Marble,
Yes,
Northway,
Yes.
Ferris,
No.
Van Meter, yes.
All right, it passes, and that's. Joyce, do you understand?
Yes, we're gonna find out how much the closing costs are, you're gonna let me know.
Yep.
And I will tell you whether I'm willing.
Correct.
I'm willing to do that, then.
then you own this wonderful piece of property.
Okay, so Thank you, thank you, thank you. At this point, we, have 15 minutes to go before we usually start the normal, but I think we can get a jump on it. Or we could jump ahead and open the other sealed bids. This is for the enforcement officer's job. Or should we just get started on the rest of the agenda?
Rest of the agenda.
Is that okay with you?
Keep going the way we're supposed to go.
Okay, sounds good. We have gotten down to the good of the community. And there aren't a lot of handouts for everybody, so I guess I'm gonna have to explain a lot of stuff. We've had good times and bad times with the audience participating. Sometimes unsolicited, sometimes we ask members of the audience, you know, if they're knowledgeable or they live next to the problem or whatever. And then sometimes we have people shouting out things. So I was been asked for several months now by the rest of the board members to get a hold of some rules and kind of talk to people about this. So that's what we're doing at this point. And if anybody would like this, I'd be glad to do some hard copies to hand out to you. But we're basically looking at this policy here. And we're looking at limiting people to speak during the public comment sections only, up to 3 minutes each. You can, 3 other persons can give their minutes to the person for a total of 10 minutes. The moderator can't, or supervisor in this case, may shorten the 3-minute time limit. If we've got like 100 people in here, it might be just necessary for the, you know, logistics of running a meeting. So that might be possible under certain circumstances. Each person wishing to address the board shall identify themselves with their name and their address. We have had people before that won't give us their name, so that's gonna have to be necessary. And if you represent, if you're really speaking for an organization, and especially if you introduce yourself as a member of the organization and you're not gonna be speaking for them, don't mislead us and let us know that you are not talking for the organization that you're known for. The board will be provided with copies of all documents if the speaker is forthcoming, and has documents to give to the board. First comment period is usually reserved for addressing the upcoming items on the agenda.
Okay.
And then the second is for what we just discussed. And if there's still something outside of the agenda, probably that second public comment would be it. Now, I could keep going here. No private conversations amongst the audience members. And a member of the public still can be called on by if we have formal or informal consensus. In other words, I call on somebody and I say, Judy, I really want your opinion, and you go, I object. This is not the business of, you know, then that would be, we'd have to take a consensus vote, a formal one. Otherwise, if you guys all nod, yeah, and it's an informal consensus that I can ask Judy during the meeting. So, audience and guest members addressing the board shall observe these rules of participation. And you're not, allowed, to, ignore these rules. And your vocabulary, your voice, your tone, your actions. There should be no verbal aggression, no personal info. No aggressive physical behavior. People have stood up and started towards the board and things like that. Law enforcement, we are told, can be, that's recommended by the Michigan Township Association. If you can't handle it, make sure you immediately call. Professional criticism related to anyone working for the township and the performance of his or her duties shall always be voiced. It's welcome that you criticize us professionally, as long as it's polite and without malice. None of the name calling and so forth. So, I don't really have one more here. Board members may publicly request a closed session if we have a complaint against a board member. Keep in mind that the board is having a board meeting. During the meeting, the board members may question or respond to speakers or not obliged. So in other words, during the comments period, you get up and you say, I can't stand what you're doing. And you go on, and then I just sit there and stare at you blankly. It may not be because what you think. It's probably a time limitation, or I don't have enough knowledge, or I really need to speak to you in private. So silence or a vague response doesn't mean that we don't care, and we do try to talk to everybody that has a complaint. So, anybody have problems with adopting those? I didn't write up a resolution, I'm just saying this is by consensus.
Well, and I think we're just trying to get back. We were loving that lots of people were coming and participating, and it was getting to where it was more an open exchange at the meetings than Amy calling on somebody and then we decide that it's okay for Kathy to speak. I think we're just saying we need to pull it back a little bit, and I agree with that.
So, can we take just an informal consensus vote? Does everyone agree with this? Anybody have any amendments to this?
Nope.
Okay, we're all in agreement, 4 board members present. Thank you.
There was a date on it.
There's an MTA article that I printed out for you, and I had a date on that, June of 14. Rules haven't been polite and respectful. Supposed to, should date back a while. So, having figured that out.
Having said that, now,
Is now public comment. So we have a bunch of new faces in here who would like to say something in public. Your name and address?
Deal, 4570 Mullenor Road. I've been coming up here since I was 8 years old. And it's a wonderful spot. We're so fortunate to be able to come here. And one of the desirable things about this area, especially Frankfurt, is the fact that entry into the city from the east, south, and the north is not congested with I first came as a boy into Beulah, and I've seen the development, especially from the 31 coming in, just congested. It changed so much in my life. I think that any development that goes on this force, say from M150 or M150 all the way in, it's really important that there be some kind of long-term plan as to what people want to see, and because there's been so many communities in Michigan and elsewhere all around the country that have been really important. I don't like the idea of any piecemeal development. I think it ought to be part of some kind of plan. Now, I realize there's more than one township. So I think it would have to be cooperation among township as to what you foresee in the future in terms of development and what you want to see and then what you don't. And again, piecemeal development, step by step, generally doesn't work. Now, I know there's something before you relating to trip. I'm not against trip, but you have to look at that as the first step in development. Once you open that door, it'll make the next stage more difficult. Mostly that kind of development usually is short term. The owners are going to be looking for a more valuable use to them. It's kind of like I'm familiar with development in other states and where they have boundaries that limit development until they're included into a boundary. And what the buyers will do is they'll buy that property and they'll use it short term, farming, orchards, or something, but their long term plan, once they're included, then they develop it full.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is simple. I think there should be some kind of plan developed on the entries, into
If you could leave your number, I'd be glad to explain. We do have a master plan.
Oh, great.
And we do have, an emphasis towards trying to preserve our rural character. It's very hard to do. And then I also wanted, and this may be answering some questions that the rest of the people here have, is that this is just preliminary, but the people who are represented by a development company for the camp nearby have indicated just recently that they will be changing their purpose. Use. We don't know what that means.
Yeah,
So I just thought I'd tell you that they have not shown up when they said they were gonna show up, and they have not supplied the extra materials that we've asked for yet. But they seem to know that there's some public, just a little bit of public, dissension about that development, and so that they have indicated that they are changing their idea of what it should be used for. Have no idea what they have in mind. But just thought I'd say that.
sure. Well, I'm glad to hear you.
And give me your number. I'd be glad to tell you about the master plan that's on our website.
Number is area code three,
Oh.
area code 35. 408, oh, 308, 923,
9,
233.
okay, sounds good. John Field.
Yep.
Next person, please. Anybody else want to make public comment?
Are you done with the camp nearby?
No, you're welcome to go ahead and say.
No,
whatever
you're
you
done
want.
with it. I'm out of here. That's all I'm here for.
Remember that they are still in the process of asking us for permission.
They haven't withdrawn their permit then.
They have not withdrawn it, but it all goes to the planning commission first, and they then come to us, and they haven't even figured things out at the first level yet.
And what's the timeline? What do you anticipate that process will be?
Especially if they've changed their mind recently, and how long will it take for them to get us more documentation and blueprints and all that? I have no idea. I'm sorry, I just don't know. It all depends on them.
And I'm correct that Tom Casero wrote them and he requested more information. It was very specific and they've not supplied that. And now Amy, this is news to me. They've come back and said they may be changing their plan. So it's really in flux.
There's no expiration date. Their plan just sits there in perpetuity if they
That's a
don't.
good question.
At some point, I think at some point the planning commission can say we're closing it because of the length of time it's been sitting here. But that'd be, it's way not come to us yet. It's still with Tom and the planning commission.
Again, you're welcome to leave your name
Yeah.
and number with me, and I'll ask our zoning administrator, is that, is there a time watch clock ticking? Because that wouldn't be very nice of us to sit on it forever and just say, oh, well, we'll get to it next year. That wouldn't be very conducive to good government, so. But they haven't really come with all the official stuff yet, so I'm not sure the clock has started ticking yet. We're still saying, get more stuff in and then we'll start the clock. But I'll find that out for sure, so that I'm not speaking out of my hat.
Thank you.
Yes,
Hi, I'm Suzanne Peel. I live at 4570 Mullen Road, and like John, my husband, I've been coming up here since I was 5. And I'm 79 years old, so you can figure out how long that's been. So we have a vested interest, even though we don't vote up here, some of us don't vote here. We still have a vested interest in what has happened and what will happen. And I see your opportunity as this is an opportunity to direct how land will be developed for the following generations. And instead of just thinking on a short term and doing it piecemeal, like a developer comes to this piece of property and one to there, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to make sure that people recognize where they are when they come. Do you see what I'm saying? There are some places in this world that you can go and spend a lot of money getting there, And it doesn't look any different than your hometown, your parts of Chicago, for example. But you want to keep the reason people coming out here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you give us your name?
I'm Terry Freisinger. I've been interacting. I've sent you letters. I've done all planning meetings and,
We need it for the record here, so.
oh, okay. So I'm a permanent resident. 77 years I've been up.
Thank you. Yes, Ellen. Ellen Hertzberg.
And I just wanted to get to the conversation. I think the zoning administrator's comments are all posted online. Okay? I think it's useful for people to know that where this stands in the planning commission, the zoning administrator, you know, it's not just sitting there doing nothing, that the zoning administrator did make lengthy comments and pointing out areas of the application that do not conform to the existing zoning. And so that went back to them, you know, and was pointing out where there were problems with the permit as far as the planning commission was concerned. It's necessary, the zoning regulations are being enforced, and these are pointing out some of the things that were wrong in the permit to begin with. So it is a long process, and it, you know, passed on back to them, and they're working on those objections as well. But you know, it is moving, but it's not that people are ignoring what has been proposed so far.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time?
Hi, Cindy Roth, and I live at 4445 Mullenell Road. Just to kind of also add to the comments that have already been made about having a master development plan, and I maybe misheard you, is it available online?
It is.
It is, okay, and that's good to know, but I'm also concerned from the things I've heard, and I'm be more involved in this, but you know, the fact that zoning seems to be able to be changed, you know, just as needed, you know, somebody comes along and now we're gonna have a new plan and, you know, we're just gonna change this. And I really hope, and I am just gonna reinforce, I really hope that very careful thought and consideration goes into that. Just from looking at what I've seen already, this isn't necessarily gonna benefit the town or the group as a whole. It isn't really, it's gonna add traffic congestion at a point in the road where, you know, it can be a hazard. And I really just want that to be very, very carefully thought of, because it has impact far more than that single property at the bottom of the hill. It can change the entire, as Bill pointed out, the entire character of the road coming in, create traffic and safety concerns for all of us. And we've all seen, and the accident reports up here or whatever, or it just really needs very careful consideration. And I'm glad they may be revising the plan, but I think that revision really is thoughtfully done and considered by the zoning people.
And I just want to add, this chair, Sarah, our zoning administrator, we are so lucky to have him. And if anybody thinks he applies anything willy-nilly, they've not met Tom and Sarah. He is incredibly detailed, and he doesn't just change zoning ordinances. It doesn't happen, and he is giving this thorough thought, and as is our planning commission. So I can't say enough about Tom and his skills.
Retired.
Yeah.
We'd love to find another one, because he'd like to be done retired, but you know, any retired engineers out there who'd like to be, we'd like you to apply. Any other public comments at this time? Thank you. Moving right along, minutes. Got a copy? I'll move that we go ahead and accept them as presented.
There's one error.
Oh, no.
Abigail Ellsworth's name is listed twice in the.
Oh, for God's sake, that's awful.
I was gonna say
All
that.
right, what page are you on?
Page one,
Page one.
Page one?
up at the top where the guests are listed.
Oh,
She's there twice.
okay. So I'm gonna, remove my first, take back my first motion, and I'm gonna move that we accept the one, amendment to the agenda, and
I'll second it.
you'll second that. Any others? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Thank you for the minutes. And correspondence, we've got two letters that came in. And when it comes in generally to us, we try to include them. One is the from the state of Michigan. And they're just telling about before they required our police officers to have certain training, but the state never gave money for it. I think those called unfunded mandates. And so they have just given us, not just us, but the whole state, money in order that we have programs available. And so our law enforcement officers are going to benefit from that. So that was one letter. And the other one was from the Benzie Central Dispatch. And that our 911 system is changing just a little bit, in that we'll be able to give out more, when I say we, the guys, women that answer the phone will be able to dispatch more medical information than they usually do. They can instruct somebody how to deliver a baby, administer an EpiPen, on how to do CPR. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't get that before, but no, the operators did not do that. Now they'll be trained in order to do that over the phone. That was the second piece of thing. Okay. Then we got two more just recently. One is from a gentleman who applied to the zoning department for a variance. He wanted to not follow our zoning rules. And that is allowed. If there's a, you think you have a good reason that you can't meet those, you can come, and it's called the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the Zoning Board of Appeals turned him down and said, no, he could not do that. And he's very upset. So I have told him that in order to completely investigate this, he's complaining about staff members, as you probably saw it in this packet. And so we are going to ask him to come in and try to deal with it, one-on-one, and try to maybe mediate, but I told him that he needed to give us all his information, and he's attempted to do that.
Okay.
So, and more information, we're all transparent. You're welcome to get a hard copy of any of that if you wish. So. And then there was a second letter, and it was supplied by you, and it was just somebody applying. I sent that on to Abby Ellsworth,
Okay.
the famous double Abby. She has volunteered to start an environmental committee. And so this is another person, a young person who was very interested in being on that committee. Okay, so. Okay, any other correspondence or comments? Yes, at this point, do we have our Cherry Capital person? Is
Oh,
it you? Hi,
Hi,
introduce yourself. You've got 6 minutes.
6 minutes. All right. I'll try to be brief then.
Okay,
I'm Justin Maylone with Cherry Capital Communications. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to give the board and everybody an update about the fiber to the home project that we're doing in Crystal Lake Township. So we this winter we started building from Beulah or Benzonia actually, where we can interconnect with our network, and we constructed a hut over the winter on township property, which we're very grateful for that relationship and that ability. We have fiber to that hut, and we are in the process of activating that hut. We'd like the township hall to be the first active location in Crystal Lake Township, and we hope to have that accomplished the second
week, middle of August and end of the month. So we started construction on the north side and the south side of N-115. We're about 60% as far as getting conduit in the ground. What a Lab Road, Glory Road, Maury Drive, Graves Road. Those are the northern routes that we've been doing construction on so far. And then on the south side, Cass Road, Adams Road, River Road, Airport Road, and Carlson Road are roads that we've been doing construction on so far. So things are going well, and we're happy to be here.
Any questions for him?
Maybe I've got a question, is this, once we're ready to make it operational, is it gonna be wireless or you have to run wires?
This is 100% wired. Yeah, so the feed to the hut is a wired feed. The feed to all the homes or locations that want to connect, those are all connected with fiber optic.
Do you have a specific timeline for completion of, right now, it seems like you're on the western end of 115 to go down closer to 31, do you have an estimated time?
So you're saying,
Heading east on 115 going to 31. Any thoughts on
so back towards
towards Benzonia,
Benzonia.
hitting some of those streets off of, there?
Oh, that neighborhood right there?
Yeah.
So that construction is complete. We've jetted fiber. And once this hut is activated, we can start activating homes, in that area.
And if a home is interested in becoming part of the fiber optic network, we would reach out to you?
Yeah, if you call the office, we can get you signed up.
All right, thanks.
You got it.
I think on the homepage currently, if you scroll down, maybe the last item I have on there might have the phone number, or I'll get it there if it's not there now.
And I'm happy to take your information too.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Tell us your name again.
Justin Maylone.
So you look like your brother.
My dad.
Yeah. Oh, your dad, okay.
I will tell him that he said brother, and I'm sure that absolutely make his.
Thank you, Justin, so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
I'm actually gonna get to work. I'm gonna drive some of the routes and just see what we've been.
We'll tell your father you're on the job.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, take care. The next guest we have is Brooke Popp. She used to be our treasurer, and now she's the airport administrator, or manager. Which are you? Is it both? Manager, is there an administrator? No, so I could just cross that name on, okay, title off.
I provided the board with a copy of my presentation, so I'll answer any questions and comments at the end. As we know, the city of Frankfurt, County of Benson, and Crystal Lake Township are members of the Community Airport Authority. When the authority was created in 1996, operating expenses were basically unknown and minimal. The hangars, fuel farm, and terminals were being constructed. Meeting and office space, groundskeeping, and bookkeeping services were provided by the city. The $3,000 contributed by the city and the county were not membership fees. There are no membership fees for the Community Airport Authority. The Community Airport Authority Act states that airport funding or budget shortfalls are funded by the member entities. The budget shortfall is for all the operating expenses not funded by the airport's operating revenues. 20 years later, additional funds were requested by the authority in the amount of $12,000 each. Operating revenues were not in keep with operating expenses. In my opinion, it was a sales tool to label the $12,000 appropriation as part of the airport manager's salary. It was tangible, easy to identify and understand. Crystal Lake Township has contributed $15,000 to the authority for the last 8 years. I'm here today requesting another annual $15,000 contribution from Crystal Lake Township. This contribution is intended to fund various airport expenses such as utilities, repairs, maintenance, insurance, and wages. The airport is committed to increasing efficiencies and is confident the new improvements will increase airport revenues. Now that the airport is no longer encumbered by the air easement process, we can look forward. Our goal is self-sufficiency. Some of the new efficiencies are plane passes, capturing revenue and improving record management. Rental cars will be available next spring to capture lost revenue due to planes diverging to other airports that offer that service. Increasing hangar rents to competitive levels will increase revenues. Concentrating on competitively priced aviation fuel will increase income. Providing other services at the airport that generate income such as gliders, skydiving, and fun tours. Self-sufficient means standing alone. This will take time. The next 2 years of grants will be made toward the outstanding fund. If the authority chooses to construct additional hangars, a jet fuel farm, or other revenue producing project, it may be up to 8 years in the future for completion of that project. Moving forward, I'd like to focus on building a collaborative team with the authority and the members, building relationships and fostering a team perspective. The board and I are always open to suggestions that benefit the airport and ultimately its member entities. You had given me questions, so the plan for South City Airport, I believe I covered that. In regards to the entity appropriations, I presented the budget to the city last night, and I'll be presenting to the county next week. I'm not asking for commitments at this time. I'm just allowing you to thoughtfully examine your role and value and the authority. So questions 3 and 4, there is a sheet on that, the articles of incorporation and tax status. I'll let you read that over, but basically, the law, the airport authority does not need articles of incorporation. If we were a for-profit or nonprofit business, you would, but since the authority was created under the Michigan Act 206 of 1957. It is an incorporated airport authority necessary for a community airport, and it's not required to file the articles with the state of Michigan. Basically, because in that statute, everything is defined as what you would do with articles of incorporation. In regards to tax status, so originally in 1997, we were considered a 509A1, section 170B1A6, which is a public charity that is publicly supported as it normally receives 1/3 of its total support from government units from contributions made directly or indirectly by the general public or a combination. Then in 1998, they became a 501c3, but because they were not filing their IRS Form 990, in 2010, they lost that, which means we reverted back to the original 509. Hangars. So let's see, you have questions on hangars. There are 25 hangars, 22 of which are leased to the public. FKS is using 2 of them, and then we have 3 private hangars. And Lord, your last question was, is the authority acquiring any property, specifically the Romel property? And no, we are not. Any other questions?
Did you ask the county and the city for 15 grand each?
I haven't been to the county. I was at the city last night.
Okay, did you
And
ask?
I'm doing exactly what I'm doing tonight.
Okay.
Not asking for commitment.
But is that the figure you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you say private hangar, do they own it?
The private hangars, they own the structure. So they pay you personal property tax here in the township.
Okay.
Because of that structure. And then they lease the square footage from us. The footprint.
Board, you go first.
I just want to clarify, the 15 is the 12,000 plus the.
We have to
not
do,
there?
we really have to do away with that language.
So just 15.
It's just 15. We have to focus that your appropriations are to help us with our budget shortfall, because we don't have enough revenue to sustain ourselves. So we've asked for equal portions from each. There aren't membership fees, there aren't, we're asking for one.
So that eliminates some that we're not paying 3 for
Your
in the
own,
past. It was 12 and 3 and.
right. Yeah, so going forward, it's just one.
Website was good too. Thank you.
I added more. Yeah.
Good board. I asked my questions.
When you were the treasurer and we were consulting our lawyer, I thought that he replied that we were not official members because there was no MOU, memorandum of understanding.
I don't have that. I can't answer that.
Thanks. Anybody? How about anybody in the audience?
I have a question. So what is an issue that's the appropriation that you're asking for?
The airport is, so we're an airport authority. We have 3 entity members, the city, county, and the township. So we just did our budget and we have a budget shortfall. So we have to ask the entities to help us out.
Gotcha. So my name's Cederholm, and 4445. Should have been renting one of your. Yeah, so I use the airport. I think it's important to support. Help you for income, hopefully not so much from the hair.
Right.
One of my suggestions a while ago was that prices were going to be a little bit higher if you lower them. So. But comparing Frankfurt to, I have no problem to Charlotte. Much more robust operations. Airplanes using those facilities. For township. I'm suggesting that Frankfurt needs to expand in those ways, but very strongly support whatever we need to continue to run the operation. I think it's important.
Anyone else? We're actually looking for questions.
Oh,
So it's okay. Commentary, it's okay. Any other questions that clarifying what?
I just wondered what the limitation there.
We've had, just the other week, we had one with a 53-foot wingspan. I'm not a pilot, so forgive me. I don't know my airplane, but we can accept. I think we had 707. Do you know of that last year? Okay.
Yeah, not a 707. Not a 707.
It was the gentleman. I think you were. Okay. It's quite fun.
Yeah, I was objective. I'm sure this line there the other days.
Well, this was the one time, he hasn't been, was very well.
Well, we have a neighbor. Funny. Can't remember, it's the Gulfstream 650. I'm sure. But I asked him the other day if he's there for me.
About the same person, yes, he did, once last year.
Okay, told him, Manager one.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We've had a lot of people, could we have you sign in if you haven't already? There's a sign-in sheet there, that's just part of our protocol here. So, if that's all the questions, thank you very much. Next up is our county commissioner.
Good evening, Karen Cunningham, District 3. I submitted my report and it's been requested that you've already read it. And if any of the board have questions, I would entertain those answers for you. Yes, ma'am.
The June 27th entry.
Just a second.
Karen? Yes.
Could you come up closer so the tape recorder will record you?
Yes,
Yeah.
it wants to see you.
It wants, yes, Amy.
The entry under June 27th for the airport, an infrastructure grant received, budget provided, and then Dave Beaton Low Frequency Radio provided a local history and update. Could you just explain? I didn't get that paragraph at all.
David has presented to the board several times, this board, and there is a low frequency.
He hasn't.
Airport.
I know, Dave.
Authority.
Yes, yes, not for the airport, but for the low frequency radio.
I don't think so, not us,
Yeah, he hasn't talked to us.
Okay, so it's,
but I know what it is. I mean, I
yeah, he
know.
was here in public comment is how he introduced it. But it's a low frequency radio that he describes as really being local information, very local. So they have a trailer, they will be broadcasting, and it will be for local events. It might be historical, it might be educational, and it is called Woo Woo, WUWU. And you have some information on it.
He actually came and talked to me today.
Oh, okay. Anyways, and it is going to be part of our emergency system here as a backup. I've talked to Becca Hubers about that too.
All right. So would it be like the fire calls on it?
No.
Not that kind of local news.
No. Well, if it's news, but it would be maybe your mayor, maybe the superintendent would be interviewed. Any kind of information that's local, maybe art fairs or special events that.
So it's gonna be entertainment and hazard.
Music,
Right.
music,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So
thanks. I
it's
didn't
just,
know what that was.
yeah, and we're very lucky to have it. And then I also brought this isn't on my report. This is making sense of the Benzie County General Operations Millage. Okay, so that will help. And then on the flip side, I have the one about the jail village. So I will.
Thank you.
Leave that with you. I just got that at me.
And again, anyone in the audience wishes a hard copy of any of that, I'd be glad to make copies for you.
And I believe it's on our county website too.
Okay,
So.
thank you, Karen. Any other questions for Karen, your county commissioner representing this area?
Oh, she's opening it up to the floor.
What's the land?
The land. Oh, it was a fundraiser and it was at Nancy Reed's house and it was hopefully fundraising to get the appliances paid for. And the courthouses.
All right.
So, yeah, on that.
Thank you very much. Next up is our fire chief, Mike Cederholm.
Oh,
Whoa.
okay, a couple of changes from my original report. I have 25 members that are on the department now instead of 21 on there. That's changed. Of the three, I had one also, still 25, but I have one that's retired. Dave Bissell's retired. And also I had one resignation from somebody just can't seem to make the required trainings by the state. And so she resigned and said she just can't do it. So, and then I have another one that's pending right now that also hasn't made or Public Act 291 requirements training. So I have to have no choice but to vote them out. That's the law. All the law. Other than that, the other changes, some of the equipment that I talked about, all repairs are completed right now. And so we're all up to speed. It showed that I needed some things that needed to be done. And so they're all taken care of. Any questions from the board?
I'm just amazed at the miles, that you put 1,000 miles.
Cover 61 square miles. You won't do that a few times a day. It racks it all up.
And his happy notes are great at the end of his report.
Yep.
Any questions for Mike from the audience? From the board?
I have one comment. Kathy Wilkinson, I thank all your rescue people taking care of me a few times, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love what we do.
Thank you, Mike. Now we're down to financials, treasurer lady.
Instead of printing War and Peace with the financials, they are available online. I think you put them out there, but I try to summarize them. The general fund balance is a little over $1 million. We've got about 11,000 in liabilities, so our total available money is $983,969. The cemetery fund, total amount available is $417,553. Fire fund sitting at a little over 218,000. Road fund has $525,000 in it. And I looked at our investment earnings for the first quarter, and Brooke and a number of other treasurers in this area use a company called My Class. It stands for Michigan Class. It's an Indiana class, Ohio class, but it is an investment firm, mutual funds. They're spread all over the place. The first quarter, we were averaging a little over 5.3% in all of our funds. So we made a little over $12,000 in the general fund, $3,000 in one of the cemetery fund endowments, is that the right word? And the other endowment, 1,000. Fire fund, we made a little over 2,600, and in the road fund, we made 6,300. So the returns are really, really good.
That's it. Board have any questions?
Oh God, don't ask me anything.
No, but thank you for this. I like the summary.
Anybody from the audience?
Yes. So you have very conservative investments.
I don't know that I would call them conservative. They're spread between mutual funds and they're paying very well. A couple of the treasurers I've talked to have moved to My Class because it's paying so well. But now they're coming back and using CDs a little bit because the rates are high. So if I start to see things fall off, I'll look at CDs, but right now we're doing well.
It's not high risk, if that's what you
Yeah,
want.
it's not high risk.
Not
We
high
wouldn't
risk.
be there.
We don't do that as a government.
No. I just like to see the numbers go up.
All right, any questions? Next is the warrant report.
I have one additional bill, DTE finally sent their bill. It's $73.26. Added to the general fund total, which makes it $13,623.06. The warrants for the cemetery fund total $2,887.47, and there were none for the fire and road funds. I move to accept the warrant report as amended.
I'll second it.
Yeah. All good bills to pay. Any other discussion? Roll call when you're ready.
Van Meter, yes. Marvel,
Yes.
Northway,
Yes.
Ferris.
Yes. Any other questions about financials? Moving on to committee reports, airport, the committee, is there any update?
There is an update. It is brief because we knew Brooke was gonna give her report. Our committee consists of myself, Judy, and Dave Spraggins. And we met, first of all, I want to say July's nuts for everybody, but we did squeeze in a couple of meetings. The airport committee met on Monday, July 8th at 6. Judy is doing lots of digging through her late husband's historical airport documentation. We talked a little bit about some of that stuff. Mostly we put our questions together for Brooke tonight. Dave suggested that the committee squeeze in a meeting with Brooke before she spoke. So on the 11th, we met again at 6 o'clock for a few minutes. It was very informal and it was an exchange that lasted about 30 minutes. The committee is hoping, and I think we're going to do it, that we will have a complete written report in August. The report will include synopsis of all of our discussions, conclusions based on our research, things we've gathered, and what we recommend that the board does concerning the airport. So we're hoping it's all inclusive and we do it and we're done, and then the airport committee just is done. Okay, that's my report.
Any questions from the board? Okay, next is, light. We have nothing to hand out with that. It's just a heads up that we have, needs to have a strategic plan on it. Now that if we've decided that this is high priority, how exactly are we gonna do this? I thought we would ask the committee, and I think Josh, aren't you on it as well? Sue, our flight committee?
Committee, we could meet anytime, where we would, I'd like to get together for a meeting and, invite others that would like to come. I think what we sincerely need to do is research out what other communities are doing. Because as you might notice, we now have more trailers down there. Got kicked out of Thompsonville because they must have something in their ordinance that he couldn't have them, so he brings them up. So I think, when should I schedule a meeting, or how should we go about setting one up?
Ask your committee members, if there are other committee members that are interested in joining, other members interested in joining the committee. Why don't you talk to us?
Okay.
We get a date really soon. Let's get moving on this.
I would like to get moving on it right away, because it's obviously getting worse. We need to sit down and talk about it.
Well, we have 2 applicants for the enforcement officer, and we'll be
Wonderful.
talking about that at the very end of this agenda. So if either of them are persons that we wish to hire, then we'll invite that person as well.
Good, that would be awesome. Okay.
How about the rest of you? Anybody else want to be on that committee with that?
We're not going down that street.
Yeah, think about it. You always can get to us later. Buildings and grounds. Brian is in charge of our buildings and grounds.
For those of I don't know, my name is Brian Halliday, and I do building grounds and information technology for the township. I'm an employee in the township. And I put together a list of priorities that I'm working on this summer and probably into the fall. First one is that the township has 2 cemeteries. Township has 2 cemeteries. We have the East Cemetery over here. We have the North Cemetery, 2 miles north of town. And the signs are pretty dated on those both cemeteries. They're just old pieces of 2x10 with the name of the township routed into it. So we're gonna replace the North Cemetery sign first, and then we're gonna replace the sign over here. I've got 1 quote received. I got another quote. I talked to another sign company in Traverse City today. So we'll be getting bids on, building new signs for both cemeteries. The second thing is that because of our elections, we now have early voting. We vote in this facility 10 days for each election. We had 3 early voting elections this year. We need a generator for this facility, for this township building. We're gonna look at a stationary generator. It's gonna be natural gas powered. So I have 2 quotes that I've received for generators. The only issue with the generator is that we have an old well pit. It's the ideal location outside the building over here. That's gotta get demolished and filled. That's the ideal location for the generator because of its proximity to windows and the air intake for the furnace. So I'm working with a company right now, different excavating companies, filling that out well pit. The next one is, if you notice when you walk in the building, you see these porch railings we have out here. They're these old railings that are in terrible condition. We're gonna have those recovered, replaced with vinyl. I've got working on a quote right now. We're gonna get the township hall power washed. The next item is an IT item. We've applied for a .gov domain name for the township's email addresses and for our domain server. We were granted the .gov domain name. We'll be working with our IT managed service company to integrate that change into our network later this year. Another IT item is that we have tax software that's running on desktops in here. We're gonna get it moved to the file server downstairs. It's gonna be backed up every night just for data security and for security. And the last item on the list is the Robinson Road property that we talked about.
We just already did. It was at 5:30. We did that one.
That's my monthly update.
Any questions from the board?
Only that my computer blinked today while I was entering taxes and my heart stopped. So let's look.
Any questions from the audience? Just plug into this, yeah.
They were willing to do that, but it's only 7.5 kilowatt. It won't run our air conditioning system.
Oh, that sounds pretty. I'm sorry, the elections people, they're sending darts my way. Okay, any other buildings and grounds? Next is the cemetery. We've been trying to figure out, with the exit of one official, we've been trying to figure out the records. Apparently, we have a perpetual fund that's sanctioned by the state. And they say, if you have one of those babies, whatever you put into it, you never touch the principal again. And so through many generations of administrators, it's been pretty screwed up. We don't know what the original amount was invested. We don't know what was the interest. When I came into office 13, 14 years ago, nobody knew a thing about the cemetery fund. Nobody had opened it, deposited into it, or taken out of it for years. It was just sitting there. So what we're trying to figure out, and I think we've decided, is that $150,000 is the base capital of the perpetual fund.
That's what we decided.
And that we are going to keep track of this and have it all written out and everything so that we drop dead tomorrow or we're not elected next month, we're covered. The next person should be able to pick up a piece of paper and know exactly how to do all this stuff. So that was about the perpetual fund clarifications.
What kind of money comes into that fund? I mean, what's the source of funds that,
We sell cemetery plots.
so that goes in there?
Well, nothing's been in there
Well,
for,
I mean, okay, moving forward,
Yes.
is that what's gonna go in there?
actually, I forgot to explain that. We decided that, well, actually, we did our homework. And back in 14, I proposed that $1 out of every, or 1 penny out of
No,
every
$1
$1 out of every sale
sale.
was to go to the perpetual fund. So instead of with each transaction, we're trying to figure out $1 and all the paperwork and the keyboarding for that.
Not gonna happen.
That the end of the fiscal year, Jill and I say, how many sales, plot sales, how many burial sales, and foundation sales, and we figure it out from there.
Cause your
Once
invoice,
a year,
yeah, your invoices break it all down.
they do, my invoices should,
And right now, that big chunk of money that's in my class, we're gonna freeze 150,000 of it, and that's going to just stay there. And then the interest is what we will spend, but then money coming in will keep building the interest. I think we've got a plan. We just have to implement it. Yeah.
and I said that I get back to you about that, so that's why we're talking about it.
Yep.
The other thing under cemeteries is that I continue to have people, do some pretty weird things out there that aren't allowed by our rules. So I'm just talking to the board again, because I know that emotions run high. And they want to, they often say to me, I own this. And if they're in a good mood, I'll joke with them. I'll say, if you own that cemetery plot, I'd be taxing you on it. And they sometimes think that's funny and sometimes they don't. But we've got people who they've got statues and flags and Buddha flag banners and they've carved into the earth, I love you, and numbers like 23, and then fill them with gravel. I mean, it's just not appropriate behavior. So I'm gonna have to go after them. It's been a couple of years of this. I'm just telling you, are you prepared to deal with this when the wrath comes back at us?
I mean, they voted the ordinance in, your committee created it, the previous board voted it in. Your landscaping guy can't mow around, and I get that it's emotional, but we have beautiful cemeteries. And I think you told me people are walking their dogs off leash.
Yeah, that's another problem. Yeah, there's all sorts of violations and it's tricky to go after people.
So what are the penalties? I mean,
I could cite them with a citation.
But I think you're gonna just talk to them first, see what kind of response you get. We'll definitely hear about it if they're not happy.
Oh, yeah, we've been talking.
Okay,
So,
all right.
Should we have something that's written about protocol?
They've got it, we've got an ordinance.
It's got a full ordinance. I'm just, by consensus, you're all nodding, saying, yes, you're still on board with this.
Yes, and we will talk to them if they come to the meetings.
Thank you. And then we've got planning and zoning. Another problem is with the yard sales. And in our ordinance, it's our zoning ordinance. We have a section and it's in your packet and I've circled it. So that if somebody takes some of their stuff, hauls it to the curb and just puts a for sale sign on it and leaves it there, we're gonna have to do something about that. And it's the same thing I'm gonna ask you. Are you behind me when I give citations out? We've got, people who have left couches out on the highway for weeks. We have people who haul their cars and have for sale signs on it. It'll stay there for a month or two. Boats, I mean, just on and on and on. Our ordinance says that they can have a yard sale, something for sale in their yard for 3 days every 6 months. So that's what I'm asking, clarifying for you.
So what you're talking about is the similar activity? Because when I think of a garage sale or a rummage sale, I think of tables with stuff on, like y'all do, not just setting something out at the end of the drive.
Yes, that's the interpretation, and I'll tell you that I went to Bruce Walton, who was a trustee at the time that this was created. And they said they were specifically acting on a property here that had brought out big tables, put all sorts of stuff on them, and it stayed there through the winter, and then the summer, and then the winter. And that their idea was that there's lots of names for it. Estate sales, garage sales, yard sales, but it's similar activity. You're putting something for sale out in your yard.
But didn't you say there's something in the zoning ordinance that's different than this?
No, this is the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
This is, chapter 3, page 10.
okay, because I thought we were talking about something different this morning, so.
This is the zoning ordinance. Does somebody have a problem with that? Because if they do, maybe we need to tell the zoning people that we don't like that as a board. Do we like that? That we limit what people are
I
going
think
out?
we like it and we fight off this little stuff and we do stuff about it and not let it turn into what we're dealing with down the road. And if we start if we start saying, hey, it's unacceptable, the word's gonna get out there.
Well, for example, I don't know if you know, if you go down the Lake Road here by the harbor, the land on that side of Lake Street on the water is Frankfurt. And so are all the first lots on the left side, on the east side of the street. Those are all Frankfurt. And then you've got somebody recently, I think there were as many as 5 RVs. Did you see that? It was like an RV sale lot down there. And so that's an example. I'm using Frankfurt's so that I'm not offending anybody here, but that's an example of somebody all of a sudden put 5 boats out, 5 RVs, 1 RV.
Didn't you pick a couch up?
Oh, yeah, I got so sick of that couch that during junk day, we finally, Mark Walton and I
Went and got it?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I agree.
So. Okay, that's consensus, that's all I need, and then, camp nearby letters, I have a compendium of letters. We're up to, I don't know, maybe 50 letters, and so I just keep adding them. If anybody who ever wants to see them, I'd be glad to show them to you. Every one of our documents is public for you guys to see. I'm just keeping them, and so that when it does come to be a board decision, we've got them all right here. They're stretching back to last year, December and November of 23. So, Mr. Preisinger, we had 2 of yours, I think. So, anyway, just to give you an idea of the planning and zoning process, we do have all your letters. So, old business
Can I
officer,
ask a question? Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I'm still confused about the process. I thought the direction we're supposed to go is to make our concerns known to the planning commission. And then at some point, you would call the question, and then we'd all come to the board and you folks would make the final decision. I got the feeling tonight that maybe I should then come into some of these meetings too and talk to you, because some people here spoke.
You're welcome.
What's the protocol? But
but
do you want to hear the same thing 3 or 4 times, or,
right, but the protocol is your first option, what you said first.
okay.
The planning commission is the first step. But you know what? If you wanna come and tell us on the board too, that's fine.
Well, that's what I tried to do through the letters, but if you want me to hear, you want to hear it from I just kind of confused about this, especially when you said this camp nearby hasn't withdrawn their application, so how long and how many meetings we have to keep coming and talking about the same thing over and over again? Because some of the points that people have made already, I've heard them, 10 or 20 times, I know you've heard them. And how many times you want to hear the same thing over and over again?
Well, you might have come in just a minute after Mr. Peel spoke behind you, and he was asking the same thing. Weren't you
Okay.
the one that was asking, what is the time limit on all this stuff? So I'm gonna look all that stuff and get back to you. So,
Okay.
you're saying, what is the protocol? What's the time?
I feel kind of silly saying the same thing over and over again. I get new stuff, new complaints, but you won't hear them all.
You write me anything you want and I'll have it, I
Okay.
promise. So, but yes, it goes through the planning commission first. And the guys haven't really even completed their application, so we're way back behind the starting line. We're not even up to the starting line yet.
When you talk about seeing the sofas, you're gonna start seeing those red signs and those signs forever too. It's like, how long do you wanna see this stuff? That's my point. And you said you'll answer that too. You said you'll get back to me.
Well, the signs is a whole nother thing. It used to be that we could regulate signs, but then, there's a lot of challenges for that. Freedom of expression, your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. Can a guy who's advertising mushrooms, put a million signs along 115, talk about the approach to this paradise we live in.
But if they
So-
said there's no more camp nearby, then what's the point of putting?
They haven't
stop there?
officially withdrawn anything.
Okay, so what have they told you? They just said we're thinking about something else?
Yes.
That's
all
it?
they said. That's it.
So they haven't committed to anything.
No.
And they haven't answered any of the questions.
Correct.
So this is still status quo.
So you guys could go take all your signs in and wait for or you just leave them out, because at this point you have a freedom to express your political.
Or we put more.
Well, since the last meeting, town,
Okay, let's move on.
town, Sarah, has forced them or notified them that they're gonna have to pay for really expensive tests for.
Right.
Traffic.
And they just didn't respond to that.
Never heard back. But that's gonna be expensive, and these signs are helping.
I think we're on this. This
Okay.
is moving
Yeah,
on.
we are.
If you don't, I'm sorry.
Studies being.
I think that, I'm not sure, because I haven't been told.
Back to Crystal Lake.
Yes,
To,
they're talking about it, especially, I think, a traffic study.
well, it's within Crystal Lake watershed. Right. That's positive towns.
I have a question.
Yes.
Some of us live, out of state, for several months at a time. Is your agenda for each township meeting available beforehand so that?
It should be, we used to do a week ahead of time. Okay. We're not so good at that. So it's more like at least the Friday before a Wednesday meeting, the next meeting, and it's always online. And you can download any one of these documents that we have. So, and if you don't have you trouble, you don't see it, call me, I'll help you.
Because we've been involved in things where decisions are made in February that affect all of us, and yet we had no recourse. So that's great that you have that here.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, we've got the two applications for the enforcement officer. So if you take a minute to look at these, one's a William Kelly and one is a Matthew Stefanski.
Are you expecting to make a decision tonight?
Well, I was hoping to. How about
You
if,
should have had this stuff before.
I know, but it was only due yesterday. And then we talked about, should I unseal them and get them to people? Anyway, the decision was just to hand them out. How about if we suggest this? Okay, that we get together with this committee and you guys have some say in this as well.
Yeah, we can meet next week. On Tuesday work.
Yes,
Can we meet here?
yes.
Okay, well, 6 o'clock.
Oh, you want it at night?
During the day, I can slip out of my office. Josh, are you available during the day?
I'll walk.
Okay.
9 o'clock, 10 o'clock?
Yeah, 10 would be good.
Okay,
I
10
will
o'clock
be
next
here.
Tuesday.
I won't be here.
They're gonna look at this, recommend something, and then in the meanwhile, you'll be looking at this and we'll vote and make it special.
Yeah.
That will be made at that.
Okay, we're just gonna do.
Yeah, we don't make a decision.
We'll just have, go, let's say, what time could you do? After 5. After 5, that's right, you work too, like I do. Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
So,
Would you like after 5? Would you like to be there, Judy?
It doesn't matter, if you guys aren't gonna make a decision,
No, we would
I
call us.
just want an opportunity to look at these
Yeah.
before we make a decision.
and then get together and just get a structure ready for what our committee can do. So we'll meet at 10 o'clock on Tuesday of next week.
Great, and then we could maybe have a special meeting quick, based on your recommendation and do it that way. Cool. Are you good with that?
Yep, Tuesday, still at 10?
At 10.
Okay, and then, new business response to the interrogatories. We have to get together and do that stuff. I don't know what you wanna. When do you have vacation that you'd like to donate all your vacation days to doing this?
Well, you're looking at me,
Everybody.
vacation.
How much stuff do you still have put together?
I have a lot of it,
So it's more just reading through it and responding?
yeah. There are 2 interrogatories.
Okay,
We're being sued by somebody. I'm being sued as supervisor and the township is being sued and the officer who came to my rescue and the county is being sued, all by the same person. So this is asking for 1 million documents and we have to get them all together. I have to answer them all for myself and then the clerk supposedly answers it for the township.
are they
So
the same questions?
pretty much,
So if you and I set aside Monday, and you're not working on Monday, if we set aside whenever you're working.
I can come in.
And we say, okay, we're gonna take 2 hours in the morning and we're gonna have your documents and you and I are gonna put it together. Don't you think that'd make it easier
Yeah,
for Judy to pull the township stuffs together?
Yeah.
Based on what you and I find.
okay.
And I haven't even looked at it. How long is it?
Pages.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Board comment at this point? Or no, I'm sorry, public comment is next. Anybody in the public wish to speak?
Cindy Rolfe, Mullenhour Road. I just have a question and it's probably not even appropriate here. What body of government do I go to talk about establishing a lower speed limit on Mullenhour Road?
Unfortunately, locals don't have any say in that. It's MDOT.
It is MDOT. You
It is.
have that M22 road.
Yeah, I was involved in trying to get it slowed down over on Michigan Avenue for, Michigan Shores, the older people. Was a horrendous.
It's become a huge problem on the road. Because the other day, I wish I knew about blocking things, some pickup truck hauling a very large boat. Hauled down there for about 50 miles an hour. And it's, as I often on these lovely days, I'm on my front porch, and I just gotta tell you. It's really become a problem, and the outlet is so crowded on weekends with the cars on the road, and I've seen kids run across. People who are on that bike path can't see because of the cars parked, and
I would start with just calling the road commission, so Benzie County Road Commission, and say, who do you know? Who do I call?
Okay.
And they'll give you a phone number, because they'll know who the person is.
That's great. No, I can find that.
Okay, other comments?
I'll shoot it, but.
Anybody else for a public comment? Yes.
I get
Oh, I'm sorry, somebody right behind you first.
Yeah, man, Mayor, I don't know if this is appropriate, but since she asked that question, we delivered a sign yesterday to a woman on Adams Road, and we had trouble finding her house, because it was set way back and there wasn't one of those green address things. And she asked me where she could get it.
Used to be.
On our website, we've got that.
Oh, on this township?
On ours, yes. And, I can find which page that's on.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Peel?
I'm just curious what the lawsuit is about, you and the county or the township.
Um,
I'm a retired lawyer, so I'm curious.
we have a fireworks ordinance. And, in 21, I went down to the public beach, Bellows, and told somebody to stop. And, I got surrounded and hit.
Oh,
And one of the persons was charged and, was acquitted. And the other person was never even charged. And so now the person who was charged and acquitted is suing me. For what, though?
I keep it at that.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech. We're not really sure. It's a public document. You can look it up anywhere. So. Any other questions at this point? Oh, okay.
I didn't realize it started earlier than it did, so sorry for being late. Maybe you guys have already talked about it, but I hate to ask the question again, because I know it's a big topic. What's going on with light issue?
We're gonna hire a light officer, we hope in the next week, and get them started. It's a matter of going through processes. We give them, I think, 3 different citations, give them time to pay. Even if they do pay, then it's a certain, we've outlined it.
This isn't progressional. I mean, how many years have we done this for these people? I mean,
We had people before that objected to us doing that. They said it was discrimination against poor people and that we were, going after some people but not others. Any of those could be valid arguments. But I think that we have decided that the board is serious about doing something now.
we need to sign anything for public names or anything to.
You're very welcome. I think that letters anytime about any of your concerns weigh a lot. You have no idea how much a letter coming to us means.
And did you already discuss the issues of the campgrounds?
Yes, we did.
Darn.
We can fill you in after the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am, you?
Yeah, sorry, Township represents 48 London. Dr. Nielsen's not here, but just wanted to plug for vegetation on Lake Shore Drive and close to there. Just since as backwatters, we're not allowed to do anything about it in the summertime, and it's completely overgrown and there's no access available as we're allowed to in our ordinance. So just continue your best to see if there's anything the township can do to help the vegetation maintenance on Lake Shore Drive.
That's a Tom question.
Yeah, Tom, and I know Dr. Nielsen has been working on it with us. You know, now that we have the survey markers and all that good stuff, which is awesome. It just would be nice to have that.
Who actually does the vegetation?
Well, we're not allowed to do it. The front runners aren't as well, but I believe the township kind of, I think that's one thing we were investigating with the lawyer as well in the ordinance and enforcement. So it's no one.
Okay.
Grounds, Brian.
Now on to board comment. I should note that Dr. Nielsen, had a stroke earlier this year. And now he has fallen. And so he's back in the hospital. And so send him your best wishes. That's why he's not here tonight. So board comment?
Good meeting.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.